Good morning. My name is Judy Rising, and I'm very happy that you're all here. This is our third annual Living with Autoimmunity program. I see a lot of new faces. And you may be wondering why we do this. And there are many, many reasons why we do this, but basically, we do it for two things. We do it for those of you who are living with an autoimmune condition of one kind or another, and we do it for the people who are close to you, who would be your support people, or the people that you can turn to when you really need them. So this program is intended for both groups of people and anybody else who is just interested in learning. So today we are changing our format a bit. For those of you who have been here before, our message has basically been, what is autoimmunity? What do we do about it? How do you get a diagnosis? And how do you live with it? This year, our focus is on what do you do after you have a diagnosis, and assuming there is a treatment program for you. What else is there available for you to do? Because as most of you know, there are no cures at this point. And it can be a long haul. If you have been diagnosed with something in your treatment program, if you are one of the people who doesn't go into remission particularly, and you are living with your symptoms, it's a long haul. I know that because my daughter, who is here somewhere, has MS, and I've had another child affected by that as well. I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. But you need everything that you can possibly get to feel positive and hopeful and in control of your life. And so this year our focus is more on that end of the information than on the medical part and the getting the diagnosis part. So before I start, I think, however, I do, for those of you who would be interested, we want to, okay, there we are. First of all, take a quick look at our list of supporters. We have a wonderful group of people over here who help us put on this program, as well as people from really all over the country. This is the program that you will be hearing today. You'll have Dr. Allegra Hart, and she will be talking to you about how you can help to control your stress. Amy Duncan is going to talk to you about what a powerful tool food is and how you can use it to your advantage. And Tracy Carter and myself are going to be talking about positive thinking. So before we get started on that, I want to go back through a few of the highlights that some of you may or may not either know or remember about what autoimmunity is. So first of all, what is autoimmunity? It is simply the situation of your own body attacking your own healthy tissue. And in doing so, it creates one of 80 to 100 different autoimmune diseases that have a name. And I make a point of that because we are almost in this country at an epidemic point, in the sense that there are more and more autoimmune issues coming to the fore and being recognized as autoimmune in terms of where they came from. But they are so diverse at this point that many of them don't even have names. So why does this happen? And that is the $64 million question. Why does this happen? Now, it has traditionally been believed, and I think it is still believed to a large degree, that there is a genetic predisposition that runs through families. And when you have that genetic situation, you are more prone to developing an autoimmune disease. There are people who live with those genetics their entire life and never have a disease. So there is a second element that is involved. If you have that genetic situation, and if you then have a trigger that sets off your immune system, that's the combination that ends up in one kind of condition or disease of another. So you say trigger. What is a trigger? Well, triggers largely are environmental. It can be infections. It can be medications. It can be simply major stress on your body. All those and an additional list of things can be the trigger that can cause an autoimmune issue to actually develop in your body. So who does this happen to? Most of you in the audience are women, and so you are aware of the fact that 75% of all autoimmune diseases happen in women or children. And so then the next obvious question is, why would that be the case? And again, remember, we don't have answers for all of this yet. But one of the points that seems to be very prevalent, and I think there's a good deal of research being done on this, is that autoimmune diseases strike when your hormonal situations are in flux, are developing. For example, women who are about to give birth or are just post having a child, those are people who often will develop an autoimmune disease at that time. Children, anywhere up through early 20s, where hormones are really in a big changing mode, they will develop autoimmune diseases. Women later in life, as their hormonal situation is changing, very common to develop autoimmune diseases. So that's one of the areas that is being looked at strongly. So what are the major challenges? What are the things that we need to really look at if you find that you have these things? Well, correct diagnosis is huge. Trying to get a correct and a timely diagnosis is not an easy thing. And there are very few autoimmune conditions that can be absolutely identified. Type 1 diabetes, for example, would be one that they pretty well can be certain about. Rheumatoid arthritis, to a certain degree. But most autoimmune diseases take 1 to 5 years, sometimes longer, to actually get a correct diagnosis. That's a real challenge. One of the things I threw in here is, because I've been around this now for almost 20 years, there just aren't enough medical professionals who specialize in autoimmunity. For example, at Confluence Health, there are 2 doctors that basically specialize in autoimmune issues of any kind. So more and more are needed, and it's a challenge just trying to attract them and trying to get them to come into medical circumstances where they can be hired is very, very difficult. That's a big one. Research, huge. We have a major research institute in Seattle working on autoimmune issues. They have 300 to 350 people that come to work every day just to work on autoimmune issues. But that doesn't happen very many places around the country. So that's a big challenge, trying to get a level of consciousness so that this will become a really important topic. I know that people who developed a disease 35 years ago or more, if they said autoimmunity to somebody, their eyes would blank over. Today, there's much more understanding of what an autoimmune issue is, but we don't have that sense of urgency yet, for example, that's built around cancer. So that's a big issue, trying to get enough of that done. And in terms of the research, cure path is not identified. There are many, many things being looked at. But at this particular point, probably the immunosuppressant approach, in other words, your body stopping disease from happening or helping, in a sense, to cure itself, is the most optimistic thing that's being looked at right now. That's way down the road. So in the meantime, there are things people can do for themselves, a great deal. And we want to try to talk to you a little bit today about some of the things that really you can do for yourself if you are not already involved in them. So I'm going to welcome Dr. Allegra Hart up to the stage, and she will tell you a little bit about who she is, and you're going to be delighted.
Welcome. I'm Dr. Allegra Hart. I am a naturopathic physician, and I help people learn how to care for themselves at a deeper level. Is that better? Excellent. So as a naturopathic physician, I help people learn what tools are going to be the best asset for them to create a happy, healthy life. See, when we learn how to care for ourselves at a deeper level, we have better relationships. We interact in a healthier way with our family, with our friends, which helps us create healthier communities, which helps us create healthier societies and a healthier world. So this self-care that I teach, my goal is that it is the ripple effect that helps us cultivate a happier, healthier world so that we can live a more natural, balanced, and sustainable life. And right now, I'm going to talk to you about stress, which is one of those things. Now, does anybody out here ever have stress in their life? Show of hands. Nobody's raising their hands. Huh. Gosh, okay, well, I guess we're going to skip forward then. So stress is one of those things that shows up, and it's kind of that layering effect, you see? Just this little bit of, oh, things aren't quite going the way I planned. You know, I had all these plans, and now all of a sudden this snowball happened, and it builds up, and it builds up, and then it flares. And it just seems to explode when something that seemed so small happens in your life, and then everything seems to break down. And that's when symptoms flare. That's when our autoimmunity markers, if we have them, seem to spike. We seem to handle those little things poorly. And everything seems to be a huge problem, and we catastrophize the world around us. So the thing is, when we have lots of stress in our life, our ability to repair ourselves and rejuvenate goes down. And there's a simple reason for that. You see, when we are stressed, that's our body's physiologic reaction telling us that there is a major problem and we are threatened and we need to survive. Therefore, repair is not really on the menu. We need to focus our energy on getting through what is going on right now, right in front of us, right at this moment. And it sends this cascade of hormones, of epinephrine. And if the stress has been there long enough, cortisol begins to be made. And then our tissues begin to break down. And then we're not able to repair because we are awash in these stress hormones. And we really don't even have the energy to focus on rebuilding and healing. And that becomes very problematic, especially when autoimmunity is a factor in your life. So I need to crack this myth right now because there's all of this talk about creating a stress-free life. That is not what I'm going to teach you today, because that is not possible. So I am not going to set up any delusions that we are able to create a life without stress. Stress is an inevitable part of life, and it is an important factor that we utilize to our advantage. Now, most of the discussion about stress is saying that it's a bad thing. And in fact, what I was just saying is telling you how it's not helping you heal. And that's only part of the picture when we're looking at the way stress impacts our ability to cultivate a happy, healthy life. Because stress is the only reason we make changes. If we had no stress in our life, why would we need to learn anything new? Why would we need to change at all? Why would we need to grow or evolve or make better choices? Because everything's fine. So stress is actually a resource for you, and when properly harnessed, you can then make much better choices and use it as a catalyst rather than something that is breaking you down. Even nature harnesses this to its advantage. The seasonal changes are a stress. with each season, something is growing and something is breaking down. These are the natural cycles, and when we embrace our natural cycles, we become so much more able to enjoy the ebb and flow that is inevitable in our life, that is mandatory for us to have a happy, healthy life. So, where we get caught up in fighting the natural cycles is where we limit our ability to use stress as a resource. Because really, it's all about how we respond. Now, if something stressful happens, you might freak out, throw a tantrum, scream, cry, throw stuff. Okay, that's a response. But if you stay in that state, that's where things take a turn for not so helpful for you. Now, it's important to get out that frustration, and sometimes screaming and crying and having a tantrum is what you need to just move through it and get past it. But ultimately, if you frame stress as something that is here to break you, as something that is here to stop you from getting what you want or for living the quality of life that you desire, then that is exactly what stress will do for you. It will stop you in your tracks. But the thing is, it doesn't have to be that way, because that's merely a choice you made. Because stress, things not going according to plan, is kind of the only thing you can count on, right? I mean, the only thing that is constant is change. And if we think that it has to fit in the same little box every single time, well, then apparently we missed the last few decades of education that the world has taught us. Because it's all about habit. You see, when we have the habit of creating a negative response to stress, stress will be nothing but negative for us. But if we choose to reset that habit and make a different choice, and to allow ourselves to learn something new, to allow ourselves to let stress be a teacher, be a guide, be a rejuvenator, that is where things transition in our life. And that's where we have so many more resources available to us. And that's where stress becomes a tool, becomes an opportunity, rather than something that is here to crush us. And I'm very familiar with viewing stress as something that was here to ruin my life. That was how I viewed stress for a very long time. And when I chose to have that habit be mine, I wasn't really happy with my life. In fact, life was very, very overwhelming. And it wasn't until I made a conscious choice to choose to make stress an opportunity, to make stress a learning tool, a resource for me, that my life transformed. And I am here to help you learn some tools so that you can reset that habit and make a better choice. Because really, it's all about that response. And we are not anxious people by default. We are anxious due to habits. And the cool thing is, we can learn a habit and we can unlearn a habit. So it opens up so much opportunity and space for us to be able to heal. I don't know if you've ever seen this quote from Henry Ford: whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. So if you choose to frame stress as something that is going to be the obstacle that is going to block you from your dreams, that's exactly what it's going to be. But if you choose to let it be an opportunity, if you choose to let it open your doors rather than close them, that is where everything transforms. And that's where you have so much more available on your horizon. And this will allow your horizons to continue to expand as you age, rather than contract, making your world smaller and smaller. Because it's all about the reframe. See, really, the picture is what it's framed in. The picture is how we decide we want to view it, how we decide we want to translate it. So if we make a choice to see our stress in a different way, imagine how much energy that liberates. I mean, seriously. When you are stuck in a state of worry and overwhelm, do you feel like you have boundless energy? Anybody out there feel completely exhilarated and like their life is awesome when they feel overwhelmed? Anybody? No? Yeah, no, I feel exhausted. When I ran through the habits of my stress being so intense that I would literally have panic attacks, I was exhausted for days after having a panic attack. It was something that just completely sapped me of every little bit of energy that I had. But that was where I was choosing to send my energy. And by making a choice to send my energy towards learning something new, or maybe taking a chance and looking at why I was stressed and what I was allowing in my life so that I could make better choices, that opened up so much more. And that reframe, that conscious choice, that awareness that you are putting forward to allow yourself to choose how you respond. And that does not mean that you are instantly going to respond in a different way, but if you start just paying attention, just draw your awareness out of your body just for a moment and pay attention to what's going on in your mind. Pay attention to the thoughts that are running through your mind, the tone with which you speak to yourself. What's going on there? Is there a theme? Just listen, because it's not about making yourself feel guilty or shamed that you're talking trash in your head about yourself. It's about just listening, and then maybe using the tools that I'm going to teach you here to make a different choice. This is another myth that I need to bust, is that perfection is completely unattainable. It's a delusion, and we are perfectly imperfect, and that is what we need to surrender to. That awareness that we're never going to get it right 100% of the time. And we might not even get it 100% right ever, but if we keep trying to get closer and make better choices, that is all we can ever ask of ourselves. Some people say, well, I can't do it perfect, so I'm not even going to try. And they throw out any opportunity that they ever had with that excuse. And so I beg you to throw out the delusion of perfection and just start where you are. Because really, can we ever do more than that? Can we ever start from any other place other than right where we are at this moment? Where we're physically, where we are emotionally, where we are mentally? And when we take that delusion of perfection and throw it out, that's another liberation of energy. And you get way more energy then to focus on healing and to focus on making a better choice again and again. So we're starting where we are. We're not pulling up any delusions that we are not where we want to be, therefore we cannot do anything. And so we're not allowing that to be our excuse. So let's cultivate some tools, shall we, to help you create this reframe and reset right here and right now. First off, diet. We need to make sure that you have the tools properly. And Amy Duncan here is going to talk to you about how to really look at a healthy diet. So she's going to dive into that one. But know that this is on the plate. You got to make sure that you've got your resources. Otherwise, your body doesn't have the building blocks it needs to work properly. Also, you need to make sure that you have rest. If you do not allow yourself downtime, how are you going to rebuild? Your brain literally washes and resets itself while you sleep. So if you are having problems with sleep, make sure that's something you're going to look into and explore some options. I've got a chapter on that on my book, Nourishing Space Within. Check that out. Make sure that you are giving yourself the downtime that you need so that you can reset. We cannot be 100% speed at all times. We need to stop. the seasons change and rest. We should too. But our breath is one of those resources that I want to talk with you about today, because this is our very own renewable resource. And this is a powerhouse. And as I'm scanning all of you out here, yep, I'm seeing most of you are breathing. Excellent. So that's a huge asset. You can check that box. You are already breathing. Now we're going to tweak that just a little bit, shall we? So we can make it even more efficient and rejuvenating and rebuilding for you. So my favorite, super simple, effective way to use your breath is the deep abdominal breath. Now, I know some of you are saying, yeah, I already know, I already do that, yeah. But I want you to ask yourself, how frequently are you really focusing on breathing deeply? You see, most of us walk around and we are not really breathing deeply. We're using our shoulders. We're not really using the full extent of our lungs' ability to be able to expand. And see, when we're taking shallow breaths that are focused around our upper chest, we're not actually allowing our body to get rid of all of the carbon dioxide, which every single cell in your body makes as a waste product. And when you are not getting rid of that carbon dioxide, it builds up in your tissues. It makes you more inflamed, more acidic. And if you are managing an autoimmune disease, making sure that you are managing your inflammation is super important. And right here, just by tweaking your breath a tiny bit, you can help reduce your inflammation. So, what is this deep abdominal breath? Now, please know that even though it's super duper simple, a lot of people get it wrong. We don't really maintain healthy breathing patterns as we age, and I'm not quite sure why that happens in our society, but I just see it epidemic in my patients and in pretty much everyone that I interact with. So what I'm talking about here is a deep breath. As you breathe in, your shoulders stay level, down and back. As you inhale, your abdomen goes out. It's not moving your shoulders at all. As you inhale, that inhalation comes through your nose, your abdomen goes out. As you exhale, you blow out through your mouth like you're blowing through a straw. So let's all do 3 of those, shall we? Everybody take a deep breath in, feeling all that movement come in their belly. You can even put your hand on your belly and feel that exaggerated movement out. And then as you exhale, you pull your belly back to your spine, blowing out through your mouth like you're blowing through a straw. One more. And number 3. Okay, so that's 3 deep, slow abdominal breaths. Who here feels a little bit more relaxed after those 3? Yeah, we got some hands up. That's 3 deep breaths. Imagine if you cultivated a habit of deep breathing as a regular thing. That is going to help you reduce your anxiety, reduce your inflammation, and get rid of more waste so that you have more oxygen to be able to heal with. So the goal is 100 of these deep breaths every single day, consciously aware that you are doing these deep breaths. This is a wonderful way that you can start relaxing right now. And all of you who did that, you've got this resource now. Plug it in. It seems so simple, because it is, but it is your own renewable resource, so definitely use it. This is another tweak on that, and this is one of my favorites that was taught to me by my father. And this is a way to help be aware of your emotions and also make sure that you know that you are the one in control of your body, even if it is just your breath at this moment. So using biofeedback in addition with the deep abdominal breath helps to amplify the benefits of it. So what you do, I like to use this whenever I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. Like, I did a lot of this right before I got up on stage here, because standing up in front, talking in front of groups of people is a stress for me. So I got to practice all of this very much so before this presentation. So what you do with this is you take that nice, slow, deep abdominal breath in through your nose, your belly goes out, and then you relax your jaw just a little bit. Say something positive to yourself, and then breathe out. And you repeat. And with that, you are getting the benefits of the deep abdominal breath, and you're helping yourself address the fact that you're feeling stressed and release some of that tension. You can have a positive affirmation or a mantra or a prayer or a psalm or a word. It doesn't matter, but it lets you take back this moment. So when you're feeling overwhelmed and stressed out, blend the deep abdominal breath with the biofeedback. These are ways that are proven to reduce your inflammation, which is ultimately what we're looking for in the bigger picture of health. So I've got a challenge for you. Who is willing to plug these in to their lives? Okay, excellent. We've got some good hands, because this stuff is your own free renewable resource. If you don't use it, you're throwing away a perfectly good resource that is here for you right now. And guess what? You all have just checked off the first step. You've done these exercises once. So keep them in your rotation. And in fact, when you're starting a new habit, it can be really helpful to set up a reminder system. Maybe setting a notification on your phone with a particular chime. So when you hear that noise, you stop, take your deep abdominal breath, you relax your jaw, say something positive to yourself, and exhale. And if you embed that into your day, you are going to manage the stress so that it does not overwhelm you. And it's not ignoring the stress or running away from it. It's actually allowing yourself to let it go. Because I'm not in the game of covering things up, of hiding, of trying to suppress symptoms. I want you to manage it and let it go, so it's not something that you're carrying around, not something that is continuing to weight you down. Because starting now is the ultimate challenge. You see, we often say, yes, that sounds like a great idea. I'm going to start that tomorrow. And whose tomorrow actually starts tomorrow? Does that typically happen, or does it turn out to be next week, and then next month, or next year, and then all of a sudden all those best laid plans are completely forgotten? And you're like, wait, I really wanted to do that. So start now. Plug it into your phone. Put little sticky notes on your mirror or on your computer monitor, and add this into your rotation for your self-care. This is a way to help you manage your stress right here, right now, no matter where you are, in any location, at any time. And you are your best asset. And remember, it's one breath at a time. One breath, one bite, one step at a time is how you make any change happen in your life. And that is all you can ever ask of yourself, is to meet this next breath the best you know how. Because then you give yourself a gift, which then allows yourself to trust yourself more. And then you relax more, and then you make better choices. And that beautiful snowball of cultivating a happier, healthier life will keep going, and you'll be able to boost your quality of life. And it all starts now. Thank you so much for joining us today. So now we've got a little pocket of time for any questions that have come up. Who here has a question for me? Please, yes. Oh, no. This is our microphone bearer. So if anybody has a question, she's going to bring the microphone back to you so that I can hear you. Any questions about using your breath to help you cultivate a happier, healthier life? Yes, hi.
Recognize that they have stress.
How do you recognize stress? Absolutely. So a way to start being aware, I was speaking to a young woman recently, and she told me that she didn't have any stress. I'm not stressed at all. And after talking to her, she then shared that she had just finalized a divorce and gotten remarried and moved across the country and started a new job, but no stress. We're all good. I'm like, okay. Well, even though those might seem like wonderful, positive things for you, there's still a stress. So when we use that biofeedback routine, we can tweak that a little bit to listen. And what we do is we take that deep breath in, and then we scan from the top of our body all the way down to our toes, just checking in with our body to see if there's any tension anywhere. Or maybe it's discomfort or achiness or something that's different than the rest of your sensations. And if there's something like that there, it's likely that you are having some level of stress in your life and it's showing up. And it might just be in your physical body, but it's likely, since our mind and our body are not separate, that there is some sort of emotional stress going on as well. But that piece that I talked about in learning to take that moment to be objective about what is going on in the chatter in your head, listening to your thoughts. If your thoughts tend to be on the negative side, it's likely you're chronically stressed. And that is a habit that you can reset. So if you hear yourself talking trash about yourself in your head, that is a huge flag that you are stressed. And so taking that time to really relax into that breath and ask yourself if that's actually true, because I bet that 99%, if not more, of that negative chatter in your head is not actually true. It's ruminating worry, and it's also just habit. So taking that time to scan through and really having some downtime to allow yourself to be more aware of what's going on in your thoughts is a very powerful way to help you listen to your stressors. Because seriously, even a hot day like today that is sunny and beautiful is stressful. Intense heat is stressful. Even if you love it, it is still a stress. So being mindful that all these little things that make you tense up for just a moment, or make you cringe for just a moment, or make you hold your breath for just a moment, those are all flags that is a stressor for you. And that's an opportunity to listen more deeply to how you are feeling about what just happened, how you are feeling about what you just said to yourself, and then to take a few deep breaths and see if you can make a slightly better choice. See, the thing with the baby step approach, making a better choice every single time, is it's every little breath that you have an opportunity to tweak that next one to be a little bit better, a little bit deeper, a little bit more smooth and slow. So it's not about getting it right or perfect, because we all know perfect is a delusion. It is about just doing the best that you can and being really conscious about that. Not just, yeah, I do that. But being really conscious and listening to what's going on for you. Great question, thank you. Any other questions that have come up? Yes, we have a question back here.
But until I got sick last year, I think I just was willing to go along with things, get stirred up, and I really wasn't aware of the panic. I mean, I knew I had the anxiety and stuff, but it wasn't until I got sick that I started to recognize that, I need to figure out ways, not only whether it's breathing or whatnot, but it's not just situations that I figured out that are causing anxiety. We're people. And I have to start, and my mother, don't burn bridges, I'm burning. And I have this saying, and I know people say, well, people can't make you do things. Well, there is true. I got to the point with a lot of people where it's like, I can't make you happy, but you can make me miserable. And I've gotten to the point where for me to relieve some of the stress, and I do feel better. There's just certain people I I have to distance myself from it, and I feel better. I felt guilty at first, but it's not just situations. There are people that can just constantly stress you out, and unfortunately, a lot of times that's your family. You know what I'm saying? And that's just, no, we all know. And it is reunion time, so. But the point is that I've just observed after being sick that it wasn't just like negative thoughts, and I never did that before, and I felt guilty doing it. But I had to for my own health's sake. There's just certain people that just drain you, and they're never happy, and it brings you down, and it does affect you. That was just an observation.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing that. Absolutely, stress is not always situational, it's also how we hold our own personal boundaries. And for you to be able to say that you needed this space, and whether or not that continued the relationship with particular people that really created a lot of stress, is a very important and difficult step to take. We are not obligated to interact or have relationships with anyone that we don't feel that we need to. And that is not an easy thing to say, that is not an easy choice to make, but we are not obligated to hurt ourselves for the benefit of anyone else in any way, whether that's emotionally or physically. It is a choice that we make, and we can make a choice to change our relationships. And typically when we make those choices, the people who we stop interacting with, they become very angry about that. And if you don't allow yourself to respond in the same way that they are used to, they get very angry about that, because that was the status quo, right? We played this game. You knew the rules, and now you're not playing the game anymore? No, and you don't have to. But that is a powerful thing that unfortunately can be triggered from an autoimmune diagnosis, from a health crisis, where we make bigger steps in looking at what is creating health in our life and what is detracting from it. So kudos for making that choice, because I totally understand it is not an easy one. But please know that happy, healthy relationships are not an obligation. It is a choice. And our relationships and who we choose to interact with are very much a reflection of our quality of life and our health as well. Thank you. Was there another question?
Yes, I have two questions. My first one you sort of answered, which was, can an extreme stressful event in your life act as a trigger for an autoimmune disease? And the second question is, can you make some suggestions on how a person might improve their sleep?
Great questions. Yes, extreme emotional stress or physical stress, be it a crisis with a family member or ourselves, can trigger an autoimmune reaction. That is unfortunately very common, whether it's an illness, a pathogen, or a stressful psychological event. Yes. Sleep. So sleep is one of those things that I touched briefly on. If you want to increase the quality of your sleep, you must cultivate proper sleep hygiene. That's the term for it. So this is basically making sure that you have a sleep environment that is calm, clean, and cool. Do not have a television in your bedroom. That is not the place for a television. The bedroom is a place for sleep and sex and relaxing. It is not a place for television, which is highly stimulating. So when we're looking at creating that environment, reducing the clutter is really important, and making sure that your bedroom is someplace that you like to be. Another thing is, we need a bedtime routine as adults just like we needed it as a kid. So we tend to throw that away, but we really need to have some relaxing time to help us unwind. So turning off your media, your screens, your phone, your television, your iPad, your iPod, your tablet, turn them off 1 to 2 hours before you want to go to bed. See, the thing is about the screens is they shine light into your eyes, which breaks down your melatonin, which is the hormone that your body makes to help you relax and actually fall asleep and stay asleep. So if you spend 2 hours before you go to bed breaking that hormone down, it's almost impossible for you to have deep, rejuvenating, restful sleep. So make sure that you have some time to relax without stimulus before you go to bed. 1 to 2 hours is typically the best benefit for people. And if you need to create a little bit of white noise in your room to drown out any sort of noises from the street or anything like that, that can be really helpful as well. So those are key things there that can really turn sleep issues around. Did that answer your question? Great. We need to move along here. Thank you so much for all of your questions, and let's now talk about food.